Hello, my name is Mike Smoyer, President at Digital Government Institute. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Our topic is Built for Government, incorporating an increased scope for modernization plans. Modernization plans go far beyond cloud migrations, but how should you plan for evolving technologies and yet to be imagined technologies? Our goal today is to share how to examine and assess emerging technologies and determine their impacts on the existing IT landscape. Before we get started, there are multiple ways you can participate in the program today. First, you can submit questions in the audience console. We will address the questions at the end of the presentation via participating in the two poll questions we have for you today and the post-event survey, which will be emailed to you. You are eligible to receive 1 CPE credit. To qualify, you must be online for the entire program, respond to poll questions, and complete the post-event survey. After confirming all of this, DGI will email you a CPE certificate of completion to you early next week. We will also be forwarding a link to the archive so you can view it again and share it with a colleague. And if you'd like to receive a copy of today's presentation, on the final slide in the presentation is instructions to obtain a copy. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jeff Chancellor, Principal Systems Engineer, Software AG Government Solutions. Jeff is an accomplished enterprise architect with 3 decades of experience with the focus on areas of strategy, methods, and tools. At Software AG Government Solutions, he advises customers and agencies on portfolio governance and rationalization and speaks frequently on effective approaches for digital business transformation. He has worked in numerous industries, including federal, state governments, defense, telecommunications, automobile manufacturing, and financial services. His broad experience helps to shape the sharing of best practices throughout federal and state government. And one thing, Jeff will be presenting live and in person at DGI's Enterprise Architecture at 9:30 Gov event on September 6th. And at the end of the presentation will be a poll question if you'd like to register for 9:30 Gov to come hear Jeff speak on strategic portfolio management. That's your time to let us know and we will register you. So with that said, Jeff, take it away.
Mike, I can't thank you enough for the good introduction, and I can't thank you all for attending this session. I hope you'll find some words of wisdom, some best practices, and some suggestions for your modernization programs that you have running at your enterprise and in your agency. I'm going to turn my camera off at this time so that we can make sure that we are addressing the actual meat of the presentation. One of the things that I want to do is to start making sure that we understand the business and the IT strategies that are the guardrails for any modernization effort and transformation effort. And I've put this transformation box up here to say, in my opinion, transformation is largely driven by the business needs. You're wanting to transform the way you currently operate in your operating model to something new, typically around digital transformation. To start with that transformation, what I recommend and what I have helped customers do is to codify your business vision, your goals and objectives into a place that everybody has visibility to. So your vision is your single statement of where you're headed. Your goals and objectives are where you want to go and then how you want to be measured against that, so that you can effectively prioritize the most important things first. Once you have the vision, goals, and objectives squared away and your reasons for change, you're looking at the key initiatives that your company and your agency wants to take to introduce, digital products and services for those citizens that you serve. It is important that we continue this digitalization push and transformation. And as the demand grows for even more of that from our citizens and our constituents, You want to stay focused on that. At the same time, from a business transformation perspective, we have to understand those external trends and change drivers that are having forces that shape our transformation activities. You know, being too quick to jump onto something that is a fad may be one thing that hampers your overall strategic transformation, but you have to be cognizant of those change drivers and external trends. And then the next thing that I want to say is modernization. So transformation and modernization are the guardrails, but I see modernization as a set of techniques to transform your IT positions. And so you want to modernize, you know, how IT supports the business. We all have legacy applications that we still run. We all have some, you know, legacy systems in flight to be transformed and modernized. But what we've got to do is to look at specific ways to modernize. One of the first things I want to talk about in this session is your cloud migration. It is not just enough to say, I want to move my applications to the cloud. I want to look at how I've moved specific parts of my operating model to the cloud. The other thing that I see as a tremendous promise at the business level is the concept of business process mining. I made a career choice of change toward the end of the 1990s when I was introduced to the concept of business process modeling notation and business process execution. Is that those diagrams conveyed to me a real language of the business in a graphical format. And now we have process mining to help us remember what do the actual processes look like that we are executing, and how can we glean insights from those process mining activities into transforming the business processes for the future. Here at Software AG, we are big on being data-driven from an integration standpoint and the use of APIs and API strategy to help business transform and modernize how you get access to information. There'll be a good bit of time talking about whether you're a consumer of APIs or a provider of APIs or a combination of the both, and whether you're data-driven or not. And then finally, part of the modernization, you know, the efforts would not be complete if you didn't take into account your staff. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times over the last year. We have to have our staff modernize along with the systems and the applications and the technologies we're using. So don't forget that staff is a very important aspect of this transformation and modernization. What we're going to do is start with the as-is landscape, and we're going to move down through these modernization activities. We're going to arrive at a to-be landscape. But really what we want is to document our future strategies that will be added to the strategic network as goals and objectives. We'll add new digital business capabilities. We'll end up with new modern processes that take advantage of all of the modern aspects of support and accessibility. We'll want to modernize our solutions and move away from the legacy systems into what I would call cloud-ready application architectures. And then we want to be kept abreast of advanced technologies. One of the new technologies we're going to talk about today is business process mining. But we're also going to talk about advancements in the artificial intelligence and you know, machine learning and just overall cloud architecture frameworks and well-architected frameworks. Within this transformation and modernization, there are constraints that exist out there. So if we're looking at the familiar people, process, and technology triangle, we've got to be very, very cognizant of those constraints that we have in order to deliver the promise of what we just said is our goals for new strategies, capabilities, and so forth. Let's talk about the people. Do we have enough headcount to get the work done that we need on this way to modernize our agency portfolios? Whether it's internal staff, your external contract labor, but there is a total headcount that is necessary to achieve the delivery of results. The next thing that we want to be as a constraint is, do we have sufficient time to start an initiative and to deliver on that initiative? The next facet, as we all know, do we have enough money to get the work done? I learned from a retired lieutenant general who was a CIO of a very large financial institution, that he told me he woke up in the morning, he had 3 questions. Do I have enough people to get the work done? Do I have enough time to get the work done? And do I have enough money to take care of any risk that pop up that I can mitigate? So that's what we're going to do as we continue on this discussion. And I think we have time for an initial poll question.
Okay, this is the first poll question. If you could respond to this, do you have or planning to have a strategic portfolio management initiative for your agencies? You have 3 potential responses. 1 says yes and active. The other one, no, but we're in the planning stages. And 3, not at this time. While you're responding to that, we will discuss this a little bit later, the results a little bit later in Jeff's presentation. So thank you for responding.
And Mike, if you'll let me know when we're ready to continue.
Yeah, let's just give it a few more seconds here. Okay, that works. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. So let's talk about cloud migration planning. And one of the areas that I really want to start off with is the advice of start at the top with your business capability model. If in your agency you have those business capabilities in an electronic format and a model that is easily digested, what you understand is that those capabilities tell us and inform us of what you need to do as an agency of the federal government in order to deliver benefits to your citizens and constituents. In this particular graph, this is just a visualization from our platform here at Software AG. You have a capability model listed, and it's colorized according to mission critical, business evolving, business enabling, or simply business operating. And the fact that you get everything that's in a darker color is mission critical. You also get 2 positions for your application portfolio that supports those lower level capabilities. And in this particular capability area, you'll see in my current as-is position, I've got 30 applications that I use across the agency to accomplish this capability. My plan is to reduce that by almost 70% down to 7 applications in the future. That's a lot of reduction and a lot of retirement of existing applications over time. So with this understanding is that you have capabilities, you have the relative importance to the agency, and you also have a plan for what's my starting point with the as-is applications and what's my target point with the to-be applications. I've also asked this presentation to alert me when the as-is, the to-be position increases from where I am today. And so there can be an information message that says, make sure you understand for customer relationship management is that you're going to have more applications in the future than you do now. This may be in response to being more customer-centric and improving the customer experience of those that you serve. The other issue that you might see is that you're going to have more applications in the future, but they're not supporting any mission critical areas. So you may want to revisit that issue and revisit your plans to fine tune that. So starting at the capability model, this is the first step of capability road mapping and planning on the way to the future in support of modernization. The next thing that we want to look at while we're talking about capabilities and understanding we've got an application position and an applications set of applications for each capability listed. We want to know, how do we want to move, or can we move this capability to the cloud? And we all have various aspects of what's in the cloud already, what type of capabilities are in the cloud, what's our current footprint, and so forth. But when we put together visualization and a heat map that has been colorized, say, if you're considering moving a capability to the cloud, just make sure that you understand, what's the recommendation of the starting point, and you look at cloud but not SaaS. Is, for example, this customer management capability right here, cloud not SaaS, because we want to make sure we control our data. The other thing that you want to glean from a picture like this and a visualization like this is how much of the workload within the customer management capability is our target for moving to the cloud. Notice that you have the indicators that are explained down here in this legend title or tile that says we're going to move 20%, 40%, up to 100% of the workload for a capability area to the cloud. And you have insight into some of these areas, for example, marketing analysis and channel management and digital marketing activities. And maybe your digital communications plan for your agency. You can move all of that to the cloud, because now cloud is sort of synonymous with customer access for informational assets. And then you're also getting the size of the bubble by the number of applications that you want to have, that you have already mapped to this capability. So this visualization is giving you some suggestions about what's your cloud strategy for a capability area. And then what we're going to do is continue to go one level deeper as we start looking at, all right, we're talking about the applications that need to move to the cloud. And I'm going to pick on a capability area called human experience management. And I'm going to introduce this AppRat plot over here that we're all familiar with at this point in time. And if you follow Gartner, you understand the time quadrant of tolerate, invest, migrate, or eliminate. And you understand that your measurement is based upon the business score of an application along with the technical score of an application. And each one of those scores has its own set of criteria that is, multifaceted. It used to be that we said the business score is high, the technical score is low. Here's where the application plot falls. But we also introduced the concept of, the size of the circle, which is another area, and in this particular case, it's cost. And we also have a cost chart over here on the right-hand side that tells us what are the cost types and the cost, breakdowns for the top 10 most expensive applications we have for our capability area. In addition to that, what you need is also a way to contrast how your system might make a recommendation with how the application manager or application owner might make a recommendation. In this case, we see three different colors on the plot. Red means the system calculation and the system recommendation does not match that of the application manager. The green says the application manager and the system, based on all the data that you have, they agree on the recommendation and where it should sit in the quadrant. And the gray circles are the application manager has not made a recommendation. And this might be because you're talking about your high value applications and high value assets first. And you want to make sure that those in the green that are agreed to and how to move them to the cloud, that you do want to move them to the cloud, they are in agreement, and that's a good bet. So this picture tells us that our AppRat program is running over here. You know, you score, you see, you plan, and you monitor, and you rinse and repeat. So you take the capability areas, you look at their time quadrant plot, and then you begin discussions about, right, if it's invest and migrate, this half of the bubble chart is where I want to incorporate the discussion and start the discussion of a migration plan. And if you have tools that help you do migration plans, then you can easily see from a visual perspective, without getting bogged down into the details, is that this is our incremental and stepwise migration schedule for moving applications to the cloud. So once you have these key assets in place, then you're now saying, I've got a migration plan, I know which applications I want to move, and then I want to get them to the cloud and do that. One more consideration that we want to talk about of cloud migration planning is the concept of, well, how much is each application going to cost to move it to the cloud? And in this case, in this particular graph, you're seeing there's 84 applications that have been recommended to be investigated. And you've got a couple of scoring criteria for cloud relevance and cloud readiness. Can we move these? Is it important that we move this application to the cloud? But you see the cost also shown here. And then the system has suggested that we choose one of the cloud approaches. One simple recommendation is just to rehost your existing application and its infrastructure into the cloud. So rehosting is the lowest possible cost you can have on the way to the cloud. And you look for other suggestions such as refactor, rebuild, or re-architect. The other R that's here is, well, don't move it at all, just retire it. But knowing that those are the considerations that are typically embraced in cloud migration planning and re-architecting your cloud, your applications for the cloud, you know that as you move up the scale to re-architecting or rebuilding, those are the higher costs, but they're the lowest technical risk once you get them to the cloud because they're now taking advantage of all of the cloud services. We heard last year at the 930 Gov event, a gentleman produced on the way to the cloud, and cloud architectures are vastly different than legacy architectures. And so skill sets are very important to understand how that re-architecting takes place. It is an important factor to consider because that will take a little bit longer, require new skills for cloud, based architecture, understanding and development. So these factors are very important as you consider, what your strategic plan is to move which applications to the cloud, and you can slice and dice these types of decisions that best suit your agency's appetite for cloud migration. The next thing we only have to consider is the number of clouds and where's the primary cloud that they're going to be in. At Software AG, we have a FedRAMP offering of an EA service and portfolio management service that is in the AWS cloud and the Azure cloud. And so you have suggestions that, do I put certain capabilities in one cloud or the other? Sometimes it's the solution that you agreed to that's in the future, and maybe it's a solution from Oracle that's going to be in the Oracle cloud. And then you have the multi-cloud, communication strategies that have to be incorporated into your modern architectures. So it's quite a bit of decision points on the way to the cloud journey. The next area that I would like to talk about is that of business process modernization. And if it's your capabilities that tell you what you're supposed to do, it is your processes that describe how you deliver those outcomes in a stepwise fashion. So modernizing your key processes requires tools like process mining. And at the very essence, you're taking the processes that you execute to deliver benefits to your citizens and your constituents, and you are following a path of how the process was designed to sequence the steps. You're also following paths that say, should something need to be rerouted during the process execution, you're going to do that. And when you consider that your processes are executed, multiple thousand times a day, a million times a month, there are process logs out there that are ripe for investigation through process discovery and variant analysis. And that process mining solution is going to actually scan all of those sets of records and process logs up with a process flow. And one of the things that I see as a great value here is that you can now have the conversation with the executives when they're faced with, my customer experience is not so happy. It's not such a good score. What can I do to improve that customer experience? And most people will say, improve your processes first. And so to improve your processes, you've got to have a measure point for where to start modernizing your process. These process mining tools that we deliver as a solution from Software AG take all of those records and generate you some suggestions of how much time is spent on this path, other path, and other variants. And you can easily see that across 4 paths, that accommodates about 55% of the actual number of process execution threads. And there are quite a lot of other variants that might exist for a process. And so these insights are tremendous from a process architecture perspective and a process modernization perspective. With that process, you also can introduce the concepts of business rules and business conditions that you're looking for in those process logs, so that when you get some recommendations for modernizing the process, you can zero in on that very, very quickly and begin adjusting and enhancing your processes that will be part of your future state. This area has tremendous support because the process is telling you those steps and defining what I would call the happy path on the way to a good outcome. That happy path leads to citizens, customer experience and scores improving, and it also lets you decouple the technology that's underneath, that you understand the process. You do have to understand that as you look into these process mining and process activities, that there are applications and technologies underneath the process that are providing the automated support. And so whether you have 5 processes or 5 applications supporting a process end to end, or even 15 processes or services that you're collecting and coordinating into your process, it really doesn't matter. You can now get that insight and you'll look at the ways that you see things occur. It's hard to argue with the output of a process mining tool like this. But what if you could find out, where the bottlenecks are in your process and in your landscape? And you'll start to see all the different paths that are taken by the actual variant that's been selected. Here I'm looking at a set of 4 process paths that were taken, and they account for about 50% of the total transactions that I'm looking at. And what you want to be able to do is to harmonize, those paths, streamline them, make sure that you're taking into account the right set of steps. And then you always want to generate the reports that let you know when you're improving and analyzing processes for the future. But with this insight, you can quickly determine the root cause of why the process paths are different and why there's so many variants. You can take, your conformance rate to the laws, regulations, and policies that you have to adhere to. And then you can set KPIs against the standards and visualize these in diagrams and your charts. You can actually see these measurements improve as you re-architect your process. There's a whole discipline that is out there for process mining activities for you to undertake.
Once you've determined that process mining would be a good technique for you to use on your modernization efforts, then we need to look at what is the analysis that you're going to get from grabbing those plots and grabbing and processing those logs. First thing you're going to see is you're going to accelerate your digital transformation so that you'll be able to model and redesign your processes in a single suite from a tool set like ours that allows collaboration between the employees and the technologies. We've seen our customers use our platforms to gain a 60% increase in benefits of modernizing their processes. The second thing that we'll see here is increasing customer expectations. If you take time to modernize your process right and to drive the efficiency up, that efficiency is going to lead for more satisfied customers, a better customer experience overall. And with those customer experiences and process improvements and benefit improvements, what your employees that are involved in the processes, especially in those manual steps and activities, is that their work is going to become more important, and they'll be able to take more pride in their work and be motivated to actually help others that are undergoing additional process modernizations and updating and so forth. So you're driving up your efficiency of your business process, you're increasing your customer experience, you're driving up employee motivation. And if you're doing this behind data and device security, then everybody's happy. The trust is high from the customer standpoint. Your SLAs are going up high, and you are less vulnerable to any attacks on your data. When all of these come together, it really ends up driving down the risk. And if you can achieve from a first set of modernization activities for processes to reduce risk by, say, 30%, and then take a next measurement in your next modernization push and drive it down 10% additional, and you keep driving down risk and raising effectiveness and efficiencies, then overall you'll be in a much, much better posture with your constituents and with your customers. When you're doing all that and you want to optimize the process of modernization, then the mining grabs you the metrics and the actual paths from actual execution results and draws your modernization or your process paths that you want to consider for study. And some of the mining tools that are out there nowadays, they will generate and capture the logs and render you a set of measures, and some will try to visualize the process the best they can. But what you would ultimately like is a mining tool that has a process that you're seeing over here on the left side of the screen, and it takes that process and actually renders the process into a BPMN model over here in the designer and the process designer and the modeling environment. So you can just seamlessly go between your mining view and your modeling view, not having to jump over into another tool and try to bring stuff over, in a cut and paste or a copy and paste. If your tools let you do your modeling and your mining in a seamless integrated platform, you're going to achieve even more benefits from that perspective. The next area I want to talk about in modernization is using API strategies and API management as two of your approaches for modernizing the products and services and your access to information from your agency. In an enterprise strategy, the first thing you must make sure that you are incorporating into your strategy is that enforce a zero trust security approach, whether you're a provider or a consumer. And now that we've mentioned those two positions, know your position as a provider or a consumer. For example, our agency will publish APIs with location information about our operating locations and the hours that we serve citizens and constituents. That way, other applications and people that want to develop applications that are maybe from their website or so forth, they can call an API and they can say, here's how this agency is located, here's where it's operating, and here's the hours that it operates. The other position might be an example. Our agency will consume common and trusted external APIs in order to simplify and streamline communication with our citizens and constituents. For example, show me the location and tell me the directions of how to get there from where I am now while I'm on your agency website. And then that way you can just see, how to get to an operating location. You also might see it on your smartphone when you're in the navigation app, is that I'm trying to find this agency that's close to me. And again, they're using that API that gleaning that information from us or from you, the agency, via an API. So the process consumer relationships are very important, such that you understand, your position as a provider and your position as a consumer. The next thing I want you to consider from an API strategy is a data-driven approach where key information assets are accessible via APIs and by smart applications on your smart devices. The example I've pushed here is that our agency will publish APIs that deliver status information for a claim or an active case. That also implies that there are security aspects because the data is sensitive. You're not going to just have an API go out and grab a customer without authenticating that customer via an authentication mechanism and service before delivering the results. And even though you may deliver those results, you're not going to let them change those results through that status update API. And so that might be an idea of a provided approach, a provided API that delivers updated information about status regarding your relationship with the agency. You'll want to capture performance data and service level agreements and quality data as your customer experience measures related to each of the APIs that you're providing. And finally, you want to treat your APIs like products and services so that you get and can apply governance to prevent the sprawl of unnecessary APIs for a related area. You don't want to hasten a release, quite often, and you may want to deliver releases that are aligned to new laws, regulations, and compliance policies. Once you've delivered a set of APIs, what you'll also want to do is understand where they're attached to the business from a touch point to your capability areas. So in this example, what we're doing is saying that there are 10 API functional areas that are being delivered. And the first measure that you're seeing for supporting the customer management function is the strategic relevance. So here we are looking for strategic relevance. A full circle means that you are fully strategic with this particular API area in capturing and validating customer orders. In a federal agency, this might be capturing and validating applications and benefits, applying for entitlements. It might be that you're paying back your student loans. It may be that you're trying to get a passport so that you can travel internationally. Whatever the reason is that there will be a strategic relevance for your APIs that address those areas. And the next thing you want to know is for that functional area, is there an external API offered? Once you determine these are the ones that I'm going to offer for consumption externally, the other APIs are for your internal use to combine with other APIs and other business processes that are important to your agency. The next thing that you'll probably want to start, and we sort of addressed this in an earlier slide, is that, what part of the process is manual steps carried out by people, and what part of the process is automated steps carried out by automation and systems and applications. So the degree of automation is important for you. If you've got something fully automated, you're at the peak of efficiency from an automation standpoint. And when you see, we're doing as best we can because this actual, business process and functional area has got a lot of manual steps. And so there are no APIs for manual steps for our staff. And then finally, you want to sort of measure the API quality. You're hoping for, green all the way through. You'll take some of your APIs and say, this is our first release of this API. And looks like we're not doing so well with some of the other things. And then we've got some concern with some other areas. But please track your API strategy with measurements and visualizations that let you know that you're doing a good service for your agency. And not just to maintain APIs in a list and so forth. What I would suggest is that you try to categorize your APIs and group them in bundles, treating like product and service bundles. So what you see is that we're tracking the different bundles here. There's a banking package that has a couple of APIs in it. There's an ordering package that has a couple of APIs in it. Then there's a payments package that has 4 APIs in it. And those APIs, each of those APIs might have additional methods that can be called when you invoke the actual API. So please consider, this is for you to help govern and manage those assets. In order to wrap up this conversation, we want to talk to you about some prioritization schemes that and some techniques for establishing those schemes and how they are useful to the planning for modernization activities. So what we'll do is consider that we have gone through the analysis of a set of changes that we want to do to enact modernization, to improve efficiencies, to reduce risk, to increase customer experience scores. And we're looking at a set of projects that we have teed up in this list down here on the bottom part of the screen. What you'll see at the top is a prioritization scheme that is considering 4 key measurement areas: architectural impact of making the changes, the business value that the agency will realize after making those changes, the risk that we accept for making these changes. And notice that this risk is considered not as high a priority as that of strategic value and business value. As with any type of prioritization scheme, as soon as you hit the right marks on the slider bars, you click an update button, and then what the platform will do is calculate the ranking, that order that should be there if nobody overrides it. But you also want to make provisions for overrides for making sure that, for example, this OptiSAP HR project is addressing increased usability of the application. We always want to do this project first. And so no matter what the scoring might say, we can manually override. And what you'll also want to do is consider other types of slider bars where you can dynamically adjust this. And you might want to consider finance and risk and compliance and risk as a set of measurements as well. In other schemes, you might have a prioritization scheme that is fixed, the weightings are set, and until somebody tells you otherwise, you can't adjust the weightings, but you can understand how those weightings are applied to achieve additional scores and mechanisms for prioritization. And lastly, we talked about the big three constraints of people and resources that you might have available for your modernization activities. And so, project by project, each project is looking for a set of skills that are available from the service providers, either from internal staff or through contract staff. And so you'll want to know that the skills are database programming, consultation, down here, Java programming and JavaScript programming. And where we fill those with people, we understand that this person is going to be part of this project for this duration. And when you think about this on a project by project basis, what you want your platform to do is to take all the projects, roll it up to the organization that is running the projects, and then for each organization in the agency, you want to roll it up to the agency level to get a total cost of change for modernization and transformation as well. And hopefully these have shown you that these tool sets are available for doing this, all part of your modernization and transformation activity. In closing remarks, what I want to do is to make sure that you are enacting a set of key activities to deliver business value for your agency. So last year I presented at 930 Gov and introduced the concept of the behaviors required for strategic portfolio management. And then this is the process. At the beginning, you'll want to set your objectives for your strategy and your strategic guidance for keeping things aligned, keeping that line of sight for everything that you do is tied to a strategy and a purpose and a goal and an objective. You'll want to determine the targets that you're going to try to achieve, define your consolidation strategy for taking, say, duplicate assets or aging assets and combining them into a new asset. You'll plan the implementation through modernization techniques. What kind of modernization we're going to do? Are we going to refactor some of the applications? Or are we going to out and out replace them with new applications as we move to the cloud? You'll make sure that you're monitoring the implementation across all of your projects that you're conducting on behalf of modernization and transformation. You'll want to make sure that once those projects start delivering the outcomes and they close out and deliver benefits, you sustain and keep that information fresh all the time. And as they execute in the field, what you want to do is take those performance metrics that you're capturing on your operational performance and feed that back into the planning purposes again so that you can restart and reset your objectives for the next year, the next planning cycles. And finally, we have learned quite a bit as we interview our customers across the globe to what are the questions that you're asked most often from the executives. You know, tell me how I'm doing with increasing my customer experience and customer satisfaction scores. The thing that we've done with our platform is to help you with these modernization, is address each of the portfolios from a business portfolio, an application portfolio, down to your cloud migration and management portfolios, is that these questions are there. They're the most often asked questions. And since they're most often, they are fixed. And so anybody can log into the system and actually execute and ask a question simply by double clicking on any one of the questions that are here. So if you wanted to know which process areas require the most IT support, you can ask that question. It'll show you total cost of process from a perspective of all the IT support it has. And if it's fairly high cost, you may want to look for ways to reduce that cost by modernizing your applications providing that support. If you wanted to know what is our cloud footprint, every day you come into the platform, if you ask the question, what is our cloud footprint, it will tell you these are what applications we have in the cloud so far. And if you want to address technical debt or sensitive data handling, you'll have questions that are already out there embedded into the product. The other thing that you'll want to know is how do I take this structure and add my own questions. And last year, OMB released a directive about tagging assets as being critical to the mission of the agency. And so we added a couple of questions. For example, in the application portfolio, what applications and systems are considered critical for my agency? And in the same time, what hardware and software products are considered critical? In an agency that we have been supporting for a few years now, you've got upwards of 1,000 different hardware and software products. Not all are considered critical, so you certainly want to know what are your operating systems and what's your middleware and what's your databases that's holding your data out there as an example. So not everything is critical, and so make sure you have a great definition of what is critical. I hope you've gotten some good ideas for asking questions about how to shape and adjust your modernization strategy and how you're going to deliver transformation for the business that is meaningful not only to the agency but also to your customers and your constituents that you serve by addressing customer experience improvements, driving up efficiency of your processes, and reducing risk of your overall IT posture. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, we're going to go to our poll question before we wrap up. Would you like to see Jeff Chancellor present on strategic portfolio management? It is a different presentation, but it will be taking place at the DC Convention Center on Wednesday, September 6th. If you're from government, you could just click yes there, and I will have my team register you. It's free for government, academia, and nonprofits. Yes, if you're from industry, we will send you a copy of the registration information. Or if you're already registered, you could just let us know, or not at this time. Again, the DGI team would like to thank Jeff and the Software AG Government Solutions team for their support of today's broadcast. I'd also like to thank the audience for tuning in today. We had a fantastic turnout. We very much appreciate your continued support. On behalf of Digital Government Institute, this concludes today's program. Have a great day, everybody.